We actually did it. We all collectively survived another year of gaming chaos, but this one felt incredibly packed. I actually played over 200 games this year, many of which I completely finished. I got some platinum trophies, I did indie games, simulation games, RPGs, and first-person shooters. It has been just wall-to-wall craziness. But I want to try and do the impossible and talk about the best of the best. The games that truly impressed me, that wowed me, that did things that felt different, and in my opinion, better than the rest. These are my picks of the top 10 games released in 2022. Number 10. Gran Turismo 7. There's something so incredibly zen about playing an incredibly fine-tuned racing game, because it really just comes down to pure memorization and talent. Being able to make it across those tracks, going around corners, trying to remember what's the next turn, what the enemy car's max speed is going to be, and making sure that you actually make it across the finish line first. Gran Turismo 7 is packed with cars, it's packed with options, and honestly, it's got some insanely photorealistic graphics, but I was really just attracted to the realism itself. It felt so good to try and master these tracks, to try and figure out the best way, the best vehicles, to top each of the different timelines and get every single racing license. I like this game a lot, but it definitely had its issues, mostly because as fun as it was, the currency was incredibly unfair at launch. They've managed to patch a lot of the tiny issues I had to make this game bigger and better, and even after launch, there's now even more cars to unlock. Gran Turismo 7 is something that everybody who has a PlayStation 5 and loves racing, this is a must play. Number 9. Xenoblade Chronicles 3. This game is easily the most massive experience I played in all of 2022. I mean, straight up just by sheer size, it is so freaking big, it completely boggles the mind. We're playing as a bunch of characters that are basically stuck in the middle of an endless war. There's huge colonies battling against each other in this endless cycle of death, life, and rebirth, and they've had to just basically become unlikely allies. But more than that, I really appreciate the fact that Xenoblade Chronicles manages to be one of the most perfect open world vibes I've ever experienced, in that whenever you're going around, there's flowers to pick, there's side quests, there's items to craft, but along with that, it's cool to just go around and level up. Every single zone felt so lived in. Random elites wandering around, good chances to just try and figure out a new weapon class, or switch your character's specialization so you can make somebody a tank or a healer if they've previously been playing as a damage dealer or something like that. I really appreciate the fact that this is such an intensely deep and passionately constructed role-playing game. And if you have a Nintendo Switch, I think this is probably going to be some of the best graphics we're ever going to witness on this machine. Number 8. Stray. This project is just so funny to me because it felt like half of the internet became completely obsessed with the kitty cat game and half of people completely despised it. And I do think that part of that is because you kind of have to like cats to enjoy Stray, at least in my opinion. In this, we're playing as a nameless little feline who gets trapped in this big, contained city. It's a place where only robots exist, and also these weird, consuming creatures that are sort of like weird mutagen aliens that eat anything that's alive or just metal. Now, I like this game a lot because honestly, as simplistic as it is, it really tugs your heartstrings. Playing as this little kitty cat, taking naps, tripping up the different robot people on their tasks, or even just accomplishing that next little mission and stuff like that, I really became very infatuated with this world of it. I said this in my review when I originally beat Stray, and I eventually platinumed it, but I'm so excited for a Stray 2. I really want to see another look at this world because it really feels kind of loving and wholesome in a way I just haven't felt in a game in quite a while. Number 7. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. This is probably going to be the most controversial game in this video because I do feel like people are still a little bit divided as to how good or bad this year's Call of Duty is. But for me personally, I really got addicted to it. I've been playing this about an hour every single night. I got my roommates to buy it. We've all been doing co-op. A bunch of my online buddies, like all the people on the Spawncast, RGT85 and Spawnwave and all them, we've been playing it and partying up constantly. I mean, it is a game that just has such a tight gameplay loop. I'm also surprised to say the single player campaign doesn't even suck. Like, this is a competently built Call of Duty game that really reminds me of back in the day, playing those games on the Xbox 360 with my buds when we were in our early 20s and stuff like that. Seeing Call of Duty make a comeback, giving us guns that feel like they have that actual tactile impact again, giving us maps that are well balanced, giving us guns that are just so fun to fire. I love this Call of Duty, and even now, I myself am surprised to say it. This is one of my most played games of the entire year, and it's freaking COD. What a weird world to live in. Number 6. Vampire Survivors. There are certain games that come about every once in a while that I feel like you truly need to play them yourself in order to understand it, and Vampire Survivors is that. So in this game, you have pretty much no buttons. You just use the joystick to move your character around, and you automatically attack every second or so. Now, each of the different characters in this has a different main ability. There's a guy who has a whip. There's a person that throws magic. There's a guy who shoots laser beams that do weaker damage but pierce enemies. But every time you kill monsters, you can pick up these gems and level up. Every time you ding and hit that next level, you get a chance to pick a new random ability. Now, this can be extra stuff like more luck, more damage, garlic, which can push the vampires back and deal more damage to everybody around you. But the thing about this game is the randomness is so freaking addictive. The whole point is to try and live for 30 minutes, but every 5 minutes of the rounds you're in, it just keeps getting tougher and tougher and tougher. More bosses, more crazy elites, more monsters that are there to try and kill you, but destroying them gives you even bigger bonuses. I have played so many hours of Vampire Survivors on both the Xbox and on my Steam Deck. This is seriously a game I cannot get enough of. Yes, the graphics are complete freaking poop, but don't let that deceive you. Straight up, this game goes on sale for like $3 all the time. I've already put 25 hours into this, and I mean, that's literally like a penny an hour. Clearly my math skills are kind of decayed because all I can think about is surviving the vampires. Number 5. Sifu. Alright, what we have here is by far the hardest game released in all of 2022. It is incredibly brutal, and honestly, it's one of those games where if you make a mistake, it just keeps getting tougher and tougher and tougher to progress. Sifu is a martial arts game, but it's one that's built on a very specific gimmick. When you die, you age up. If you manage to hit level 75 or age 75, you instantly have a heart attack and die, which means that trying to get your vengeance, you're fighting through nightclubs, back alleys, giant dojos, and museums and stuff like that. And during the course of it, honestly, you have to worry about every parry, every dodge, every big counterattack. Every single time you screw up and die again, you're going to keep aging up, and your deaths also multiply. So the first time you die, you may only age up 1 year. The second time you die, you're going to age up 2 years. There have been certain levels where I got completely just perma-murdered by the first couple enemies. But by focusing, by practicing, by really getting good at the combat of this, Sifu is a game that opens your mind. It makes you realize the perfection of that interesting meditation of martial arts. I love Sifu. I ended up platinum this game. I played so many hours of it. It is a game that feels a little bit different, but once you learn its rhythm, it's something that I feel like the developers respect you, and it expects you to respect it. Number 4. Horizon Forbidden West. The original entry in the series, which was Horizon Zero Dawn, is a game that really grabbed my interest because I mean, obviously, it has big robotic dinosaurs, but it also had a lot of soul to it. The idea of Aloy, this woman who's stuck in a tribal society, but stuck as an outcast, trying to survive against these terribly predatory monsters, some of them mechanical in nature, and some of them other people that are trying to hunt her down because of who she is. I really liked Zero Dawn a lot, but it always felt like it lacked good gameplay. It always felt like it was just needing a little bit more time in the oven, and that's what Forbidden West is. Being Horizon Zero Dawn 2, they really managed to amp up the budget. They really managed to make these better graphics, cooler visuals, big, shocking boss fights, and on top of that, of course, way better combat. The talent trees this time around are like 15 times better, but even more than that, I really enjoyed the unlockable abilities, the breathing mask and stuff, because getting a chance to explore all these different ancient ruins and places that look like Las Vegas or just weird sandy deserts and stuff like that, I deeply loved the exploration for Forbidden West in a way that I feel like I have not seen this done in any other game this year. It's just so jaw-dropping at times to go into a different random crypt to unlock another checkpoint or push back the fog in another section of the map to help out more people in the hundreds and hundreds of side quests. If you're just looking for raw play hours and depth of lore, Forbidden West has it all. Number 3. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Shredder's Revenge. You may be a bit shocked as to why specifically this game is just so high up on the list, but really it comes down to the fact that it's good old-fashioned fun. Shredder's Revenge is sort of a remake to Turtles in Time, but it's also a big expansion upon that. The game is just so freaking tight. It is a beat 'em up with great art. It's got such cool level design. It's so fun to play as the 8 playable characters, but it has 6-player co-op, which I've done, and it is freaking chaos. I love just running through this game again and again and again, both on arcade mode and story mode. In story mode, you had a chance to level up characters and unlock extra abilities and stuff, but I also kind of just really enjoyed the savageness of arcade mode, where really it comes down to how many quarters and credits you got. Can you actually live through a game that's 20 freaking levels that just get tougher and tougher as you face off against Shredder and Krang and literally every single character that's ever existed in the Turtles games? They also brought back all the freaking Turtles voice actors to reprise their roles. This feels like more than nostalgia. This feels like passion incarnate. It is made by people that enjoy the franchise, that wanted to make the best beat 'em up ever, and in my opinion, that's exactly what this is. Number 2. God of War Ragnarok. In my mind, sometimes the most difficult aspect of a game can be the conclusion of it. How do you finish off a franchise or a series? How do you complete a story that is just so vast and so well written? God of War Ragnarok is a big conclusion to this new Norse pantheon. It's a chance to see, obviously, Kratos and Atreus facing off against Odin and Thor. But it also feels like more than that. This feels like a culmination of ideas, of justice, of retribution, of, honestly, big, crazy boss fights. I love the epicness and sometimes just the impossibleness of Ragnarok. Fights like the freaking original opening. This is not a spoiler or anything like that. There is an opening fight between Thor and you where you're clashing against each other, creating an entire thunderstorm around you. And this is just a single of like 15 different, completely insane boss fights. And all of them feel great, they feel fulfilling, they feel actually necessary. But more than that, I really just fell in love with, honestly, Kratos and Atreus. Watching these characters grow up, seeing them actually give each other fatherly talks, seeing Kratos tell his son a bedtime story and reflecting on the trauma that he experienced in his time as a youth in the Spartan war camps. I cannot even fully convey the fact that God of War Ragnarok had a story that I don't think I'm ever going to forget. It just impressed itself so deep into me. It is just such a good ending to characters that deserve an ending this good. I'm still sitting here just in absolute stunned shock as to how much they managed to do justice to these characters. But they don't quite measure up to the pure fun of number one. And that brings us to the top of the list, Elden Ring. Alright, so this is not a shock to anybody because obviously I am a big From Software fanboy. I'm completely obsessed with Bloodborne and Dark Souls and even games like Sekiro. But seriously, Elden Ring is somehow like 15 times better than anything they've ever created. I love the lore. I love the world tree. I love getting a chance to go across the lands between and being a tarnished. I love the leveling system. And honestly, the biggest difference that makes this such a beautifully created landscape is the fact that, honestly, the change to make this an open world game is pure brilliance. Getting a chance to use your character and make your story, walking north, south, east, or west, finding abandoned forts or different unlocked weird weapons, going into the hundreds of tiny crypts and dungeons to try and find weird relics to make your own custom build, whether you're going a bleed specialization or trying to stack up intellect to make yourself a big magic dealer. The freedom of Elden Ring is something that is just so endlessly perfect. I mean, I've put hundreds of hours into this game, and I can tell you that I'm going to put hundreds of hours more. I mean, even now, all I want to do is go and make another character. Like, as soon as I'm done editing this video, I'm going to do more PvP. I'm going to start to make characters based on guts from games like Berserk. In fact, straight up, I got so addicted to this game, I actually tracked down the Berserk manga, which is one of the primary inspirations of Dark Souls and Elden Ring, and I ended up reading those just to see another glance at this beautiful world they've made. I mean, even the inspirations of this are so deeply baked into the DNA. I love Elden Ring. I mean, this might just be my game of the decade and not just my game of the year. But either way, I have to tip my hat because they freaking nailed it. Okay, so these have been my choices as the best games in 2022, but what did you love most? Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below, and please, if you could, give this video a big ol' like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already, and please do me the biggest favor of all, and keep dreaming. I wanted to do an honorable mention. I really enjoyed A Plague Tale Requiem, and I also played a bunch of hours of frickin' Splatoon 3, so consider those my honorable mentions. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.